What is up, fight fans? And welcome to the very first edition of Sportsnaut Scrap Report. I am Jason Burgos, and I'm joined by my guy, the Tupac of MMA reporting, the one and only Anthony Walker. And for our very first episode, we have the great pleasure of being joined by one of the very best bantamweights on the planet. And he is just a couple of months removed from a fantastic win at UFC 287. And that man I speak of is the UFC's new fighting father, or should I say fighting papa. And he is the one, the only, Rob Font, Senor Font. Thank you so much for the time tonight.
Of course, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Appreciate the introduction, man. You're fucking professional.
Thank you. That's why I got the fancy shirt on, just for the intros. So first question now. So for the work with Sportsnaut, I often have to use like Google and using like the people also ask questions and stuff like that. It's a guide for like articles and whatnot. So which made me ponder what the questions were for you. And I love the wording for the top question on Rob Font. And that is Rob Font Puerto Rico? So let's end the debate here and now. Rob, are you in fact the entire island of Puerto Rico? Google must know.
I am definitely not the whole island, but I am Puerto Rican.
All right, so Google, you have the answer. Rob is not the entire island of Puerto Rico. So moving on from that. Now, let's moving on for this major question. You had the big win recently, fantastic win in April, but it came, after two tough losses against elite fighters and stuff like that. How does something like that affect like your approach to when you go back into negotiations after the win? Do you go ask for the top fighter? Do you just want to take what's offered? You got to be accompaniment. Hey, I lost some fights. I'm winning. I'll take whatever you guys want as long as it's a good fight. Or are you, you've been around the game long enough. Are you the type of guy that's like, look, I'm looking for certain things that gets me to where I need to go, that checks off certain boxes. Like what point are you at this point in your career, especially after the win?
Man, honestly, I'm kind of easy, bro. Once we got the, I'm just looking for another 4-fight deal, and then again, whoever they put in front of me, I'm taking them out. I feel like I could be that guy after this next win and kind of like, I guess like sit out or demand a little extra or even kind of like wait out a certain fight, after this win. But, coming back, beating a number 12 guy, you don't have that kind of leverage to kind of even play with them. So it's kind of like, I'm happy to fight. I'm glad they're keeping me busy. And, I'm basically, I guess I'm the company man. I'm here to fight,
Well, Rob, I want to ask you a little bit more about that Yanez fight. Fantastic performance, and leading up to it, there was talk about the so-called power differential between you and your opponent. A lot of references were made to the Aldo and Vera fights, and sort of the power differentials that might have existed in those matchups. Did you take any of that to heart? And did that affect your strategy at all? That you came out there wanting to prove something in particular, to prove those naysayers wrong?
No, not at all, man. Fighting, Jose Aldo and obviously Cheeto, it didn't go my way, but, it wasn't like it took anything out of me. It wasn't like, the comments or even the naysayers took anything. I knew, I knew what I did that night. I knew what I didn't do that night. And I still know what I still can do. So it was more of like, I just needed the time to kind of like heal up, get back on track and go back to doing what I know I can do. As far as the power goes, what I'm saying, everybody's powerful once they're getting hit. You're getting clean shots, especially when you clean shots you don't see. I would say Aldo definitely had pure power, man. He's like, I felt like my face just broke when he hit me, but then like I was getting hit with shots I didn't see from Cheeto, so it's kind of like, I kind of felt both of that. You're getting hit with guys that just clean, pure power, and then also shots you don't see, regardless, they all kind of suck. So it's kind of like, I knew what happened that night. I knew what I was capable of. I knew Adrian even had power if I let him hit me, and he did get a couple shots off too, and it was more of like just stick in there, keep that chin down, and go to work, because I know the moment I touch him, like I can put him away, and that's exactly what happened. I rattled him, turned up the combinations and footwork a little bit, and finally found that match.
All right, so I want to go a little bit deeper into your recovery from the ACL injury. I know a previous interview you talked about how during that time off, you had to turn down a proposed fight with Frankie Edgar, and Frankie Edgar being one of the legends, I know that was a tough thing to do. Um, but when you came back against Yanez, it almost seemed like you were making up for lost time with that. Was that the case? Like trying to get back that year that you lost?
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely, one of those like I just want to get back in the win column. But like I've also like, I've sat out for years. I know what it was. I just it was, but I've never lost two in a row and sat out. So it's kind of like losing two in a row, sitting out for a year. There's a lot of like obviously questions people had for me. Saying and I knew the answer. I just needed the right opportunity to go out there and do it. And saying the UFC gave it to me. UFC 287, huge card, pay per view, Miami, sold out crowd, and I think it was like the perfect opponent too to kind of come back to.
Now, the big story in at the top of the division, Sean O'Malley getting his title fight. In our rankings, which aren't altered to hype the fights that are coming up, he is at the back end of the top five. Is that situation something you look at, you like understand because this is as much entertainment as it is a sport in this business, or is there frustration? Like this is
No,
bullshit. This is ridiculous.
I get it, man. I wish I was in his spot right now. If I was in his spot, I'd have been laughing. So he's doing his thing, man. I can't hate on him at all. Like I like what he's doing. He's got to the belt. It kind of feels like he kind of skipped the line, and it's like why not if you can, I guess especially in this game, so it's kind of like I get it, and man, like keep doing your thing. More power to him. I just got to get back to doing what I'm doing. But I see what he's doing, man. He's probably one of the smartest in the game.
Well, like you said, you would be willing to take his place, right? So let's dive a little bit deeper in that. You're ranked number 7. Last I saw the rankings, right? Still number 7, unless that changed. So number 7, you're on this main card with bantamweight title fight at the top of the card. Henry Cejudo and Vera supposed to be at the top of this card. Like so, 292 comes up. Are you thinking about being available as a backup? Is this something in your mind, like kind of waiting on that call from Sean Shelby?
I mean, no, like I feel like the fight's gonna happen. Obviously, if it happens, hell yeah, of course. But like, I don't think that's even, especially if this far out. Like, I mean, nah, I mean, like I said, I probably wouldn't even be the guy to get the call to, honestly. But like if some crazy shit happens and I'm in Boston already, of course I'm stepping in. But if it comes down to, I don't really think I'm not. Saying Sean Shelby's giving me that call.
Well, just as far as the matchups are concerned, what do you think of those fights, particularly that title fight? Like, how do you see that playing out?
It's great, man. Great fight. Aljamain doing his thing. Obviously, amazing grappling. Solid striking. It's a little awkward at times, but he figures it out. It's his own little kind of style where he's kicking and punching in all different kind of angles, adding in the takedowns, and then you have O'Malley, which is long. He's rangy. He's real great with footwork. He's in and out. He's spinning. He's confident. He has a lot of momentum on his side right now. So it's kind of like this should be interesting. Obviously on paper you got to give the striking advantage to O'Malley and then the grappling advantage to Aljamain, and it's going to be more of like who can kind of like get to their game plan first and keep that and kind of like keep pushing that pace, and it's going to be fun, exciting, five rounds. Main event. I think it's gonna have a big fight feel to it.
What's your prediction?
I mean, and this is
My prediction.
Yeah.
That one's tough. I'm leaning towards the champ on this one. I think I'm leaning towards the champ, but
you called it right last time, so I figured
Yeah.
you're gonna keep your streak of predictions alive. So yeah, you did last time. So
I'm leaning towards the champ, man. It's gonna be entertaining. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be. I think he's going to take a couple of big shots coming in, get into that clinch, and it's going to make it exciting. I think he's going to get hit with, big uppercuts, knees, certain little things that like I think like the natural longer ranger striker lands against kind of the wrestler, but I think he's just I don't think he can be able to. I don't think O'Malley can be able to do it for more than 3 rounds. And the extra fourth and fifth round with that guy coming at you, it's going to be a tough. And I just think he just kind of like pulls it off. Wins the decision on this one.
And there's another massive bantamweight fight on that card, Vera versus Cejudo. I mean, well, I obviously got to ask, what are your thoughts on that? But also, is Cejudo kind of maybe like a bucket list maybe fight? I mean, because of his stature, and God, that feels like classic boxing. Puerto Rican star, Mexican star, Mexican American. I mean, that seems like a perfect fight too.
That'd have been awesome. That'd have been real cool to come back and obviously get to fight Cejudo, but it ain't happening. But I like the Vera in Cheeto fight. I'm sorry, Henry Cejudo fight. I think I would like to see a more of a 5-round fight. I think 5 rounds it'd be probably a little better for Cheeto. He kind of starts off slow, but if he doesn't start off slow and yeah, man, I think it's gonna be a great fight. I think obviously you got to give the edge to wrestling, but as far as fighting and just making it happen and getting dirty, you got to give it to Cheeto, and so it definitely makes it an entertaining fight. And he's always in it. He's always in those type of fights, so it's going to be exciting, man. They stacked the card on this one, man. I'm excited for this card.
Now, you kind of sort of referenced your contract situation a little bit, but I wanted to ask about that. Maybe you can give us more insight because been around the game a long time, established name, great fighter, now a father, and changes perspective a little bit. Like when your contract comes around and you test value, which I really think you should and hope you do, because every fighter should. A lot of fighters in boxing, I mean, in MMA, are going to like boxing and bare knuckle boxing in particular. You are a fantastic striker. If that time came where you went to test your value, would something like bare knuckle or just boxing in general interest you to pull you away from MMA?
Definitely, probably more boxing. I don't know about bare knuckle. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, we'll see, I guess. But probably more boxing. I definitely want to get in. Like I've always wanted to get in a couple of boxing matches. Anyways, like so I can definitely see me getting there, mixing it up. But like, man, that's tough though, because like I have so much respect for these high level boxers. Whereas like I wouldn't play around with it. It would have to be something serious. Ideally, a better matchup for me. So it's kind of like if I got into that, but yeah, no, I definitely want to get in there and mix it up a little bit.
So you wouldn't jump into the terrible Floyd Mayweather exhibition tour opponent?
I mean, I definitely would. For Floyd, of course.
Get the bag, get the bag.
Like, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Serious fight, like, nah. I'm gonna take my time with that. I got a lot of respect for boxers. And I get what they're doing, and I appreciate what they're doing. Like, I spar boxers all the time, and it's just rough. It's just a rough day, so.
One more for me, and maybe Anthony has another. But going again to that mention and being a father and stuff like that, it changes any person's life. When you become a father, you have to take care of a person. How much has it changed for you? You are a fighter. Everyone knows that it follows the sport. You kind of have to be, selfish when fight time comes around, and that's the best way for success. But now being a father and everything like that, how does that change your perspective in training and just your overall outlook on the sport and overall outlook long term in the sport?
Man, honestly, it's been pretty smooth, bro. Like I got an all-star as a wifey. She's there. Obviously my mom's 10 minutes down the road. My Kathy's mom's 10 minutes down the road. So it's kind of like, and I think we had kids at the right time. So we're not that young, and I'm not just starting in my career. So like we're pretty good we're in a good position right now, and I feel like it's like a bonus. Kathy's always been great with kids. Ever since I've known her, she's always babysitting and cousins, whoever, her friends, babies. So she's always been around kids. Her mom owned a daycare, so it's kind of like it's almost too easy. It's like we get kids. Like I said, it's a bonus. Even like last fight week, it was like. It wasn't like a burden. It was just like we just kept smiling. Like, to get to kind of like do this with her now and kind of like experience all the fight week stuff, all the travel. And we just got our little best friend with us, So it's kind of like, excuse me. But it's been, like I said, it's been awesome. But as far as like the pressure and all that, like it's there, but it's more of a motivator. Like it's like now I have her eyes on me, and like it's kind of like if I don't not necessarily perform, but if I don't like do that extra rep, or if I take that extra day off, I gotta like look at her and explain that to her. So I kind of like, like I try to like set myself up with that. Like I can't go home and explain why I'm home early because I wanted to skip out. So it's like, we lock up the schedule. I'm there Monday and Wednesday and Friday to make sure I put her down. Tuesday, Thursday is a little later, so I don't put her down for sleep. But besides that, I'm there. She's always there. She's always with us. She's always in the gym with us, and it's just like I said, it's been a blessing plus a bonus and like almost needed at the time. I guess I would say, like especially right after those 2 losses, people were like, "You guys are fucking nuts, man! Like, there's a lot going on." I was like, "Oh, it's awesome. Like, we got a baby and a dog all in like the same year, and it's like just just and then showing up, went out there and handled business. But it was like you said, like it's all been a blessing. It's been great. I'm enjoying every day. We just took her for her first swim lesson on Tuesday, so we added that to the schedule. So it goes from strength and conditioning. I get home, swim lesson, get back, take a nap, and I'm back out to the boxing gym. So it's like it's been pretty easy, and like at that, like bro, it's been crazy because she sleeps so well to where like she's like clocked. It's like so it's kind of like I'm just like my hands up and
Anthony, how your baby sleep? I'm guessing they don't sleep that
man,
well.
Not at all. You see these bags under my eyes, right? So Rob, I swear I was gonna ask you about the baby sleeping because I've got 2 toddlers. I've got a puppy also. This house is always chaotic. I had to kick everybody out so I can get this done in peace. So I just wanted to know when you slept, but you're fortunate. Like your girl sleeps,
crazy,
and
like,
you're on top of the world right now, man. I'm out here struggling.
Man, like, honestly, bro, like it's like sometimes I almost want to wake her up. I'm like, yo, can we wake her up? Like I want to see her, like it's kind of like she's pretty like consistent. She's always been like that. It's pretty cool to see her. Like she prefers to be in her crib by herself. She doesn't even want to like be in the bed or nothing like that. She's like, yo, leave me alone. Like she gets upset if and like, we're trying to like just make it kind of she's like, no, just put me in my crib and she'll go. Sometimes when we bake, like we'll drop her off at her Kathy's mom's house, and she'll call us. She'll be like, "Yo, she's still sleeping." Like, so I'm like, "So there's nothing wrong?" She's like, "No, she's just sleeping." And it's kind of like she like her mom can't believe that baby sleeps that much. And then when she wakes up, she's chilling, feed her, bathe her. I'm sorry, not bathe her. Give her a diaper, and then after that, she's just looking around like, "What's up?" Like it's the coolest thing ever. Like after my last fight, I got back. It's probably like I want to say maybe like 1 o'clock. Get back, probably have at least maybe like 10 people in the room with us. She gets up like nothing and just hangs out the whole night. Like just watches us the whole night. And it's kind of like she's been like that ever since. It's pretty cool. Is there everybody keeps telling me it's a trick to have another one? Like the second one probably won't be.
Oh no, cool, the second one, that's what they get you. That's what they get you. That first one is totally setting the way for you to just get bamboozled for that second kid. I'm telling you. Because Rob, right now, the way you describe things, I want you to tilt your camera down so I can see the floor light up like the Billie Jean video every time you make a step. That is good fortune at its best.
Yeah, she's cool.
Wow,
man.
Billie Jean reference on the first episode. Well done, Anthony.
Well,
Yeah, she's cool, man. So fight week was awesome. So I can't wait to bring her out to this fight week. Like I said, it's like it's when it's fucked up too. It's like everybody like hit us with the horror stories like about how our hard labor was and how your life was ruined. And once they start crawling, it's all over. And I'm like, it hasn't been like that at all. It's been like, I can't wait to chase her around. It's kind of been like the like. Shit, me and Kathy were like balling like 2 weeks before she gave birth. It was just like everything went smooth. She was working out the whole time. I felt like me and the nurse could have delivered the baby. The doctor was in there for like 2 minutes. It was like just clockwork. It was like in and out. It was just like all right, and it's just like I'm like let's get the fuck out of here. Something's gonna go wrong. Like what the hell's going on? Like yeah, man. Like I said, like I still can't. I can't stop cheesing, man. She's the shit. Like I thought fighting was cool. It's like being a parent is the coolest shit ever.
Sure words have not been spoken, man. That is nothing but the truth, man.
I appreciate it.
So Rob, thank you so much for the time. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome. But if you gotta go, I understand. But thank you so much for the time, man. You're the best. love talking to you, and thank you so much, man.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I'm gonna get back out and try to go wake this baby up and see what's up.
I appreciate your time, Rob.
All right, so I mean, we'll continue on. I mean, we have a lot of topics to talk about in this record. So first, the first thing I wanted to get to, because it really deserves merit, and you, sir, deserve some shine, and you deserve some attention. Over on Ringside Intel, a sister site of Sportsnaut, our own Anthony Walker has an article up going in depth on the recent allegations on Conor McGregor and just the history and everything. And I just wanted you to just kind of give a verbal version of that thing, because it's a great piece. Everybody go look for it on Ringside. Also mention, since Rob was here, go look at our bantamweight rankings on Sportsnaut. Rob is much higher than he is in the UFC. But just tell me, just go into depth about your idea of, is Conor McGregor a predator or is he a victim?
Yeah, Jason, I appreciate the intro there and the kind words about the piece. Like, when the news broke that Conor McGregor was being investigated by the Miami-Dade Police Department, the NBA, Miami Heat, and the UFC was conducting their own investigation into an alleged sexual assault, it didn't feel like this was new territory. Like, we've kind of been down this road. I mean, the details behind the story as it's been told in the police reports are more gruesome than what we've heard about in the past that McGregor's been connected to. But it felt familiar in the sense that we have this routine of him being accused of something just really despicable. And it follows this very familiar cycle. And I don't want to presume.
Let me
guilt.
just interrupt you right there. Sorry, just for the people that maybe didn't read the articles. Conor McGregor, the allegations on him is at the Game 4 of the Miami Heat. He is a woman alleged she was escorted by security, Miami Heat NBA security, to a bathroom where Conor was waiting in the handicap booth, forced himself on her, tried to kiss her, turned her around, tried to do more, and she had to fight her way out. So this is serious allegations against him. But
yeah, like there was the repeated quote that you saw in all the news articles that she was, quote, violently raped. Mm-hmm. That was the exact verbiage. That violently was always highlighted, and it was a pretty gruesome attack the way it's described. It was just absolutely reprehensible. And even though there was a video of him and the accuser, like, almost looked like he was leading her into the bathroom, and it wasn't that she was being forced by security, and there were things that were contradictory to the initial reports. But it's still, Conor McGregor was in this position, and he repeatedly finds himself in this position. So I just wanted to pose the question: is he actually a serial predator, or is he someone who, because he does this every time, like he's accused of something and he vehemently denies it, is he a victim of his own success in that way? And I think I don't think he's a victim here. I think what we're seeing, if he is innocent, and let's because I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to presume guilt. We should not, especially in the position that we're in with the platform that we have, should not go out presuming guilt on this man. Let the justice system do what it does. But if you're constantly finding yourself on the wrong side of these sort of allegations, and you have this pattern of erratic behavior and violent behavior, don't forget about the man that got punched in the bar for denying him, I guess, respect or whatever for the proper 12 whiskey. Yep. The guy who outside the Miami hotel who had his phone snatched and smashed because he was trying to take a picture of McGregor. And then there was
I forgot about that.
Some Italian musician that he apparently broke his nose.
I forgot about that too.
Then there was the story about some woman that he apparently punched and kicked on his yacht, and she was so afraid for her life that she dove off the yacht and had to be rescued by some other just random boat that happened to be there. There's a very disturbing pattern of behavior here, and at the very best, this is a person who's making very poor decisions and putting themselves in very compromising positions. And that's sort of what I was getting at in the piece. Like, this is someone who is not making the decisions that someone with his level of fame and success should be making. This doesn't have the right people around him to insulate him from some of the foolishness that he seems to tie himself up into. There's a lot to unpack. I mean, no matter what way you look at it, Conor McGregor is definitely headed in the wrong direction and could very well be one of those tragic tales that, that celebrities can tell forever and ever. Someone who had all this potential in the world, who had all the opportunity, that squandered it by doing something stupid and ruining lives in the process.
And I think it really puts a spotlight. Just, I love the industry, but how ugly fight sports are, because he's not anything new. He's just in the long line of famous fighters that are fairly ugly people away from the cage, a cage or from the ring. I mean, in the big four sports, this doesn't happen. Like, for example, players recently gambling is like a big scandal, and everybody's going crazy about it in the NFL. And we saw what happened with Greg Hardy. He made his mistakes. He got a second chance, and once he wasn't good enough anymore, he was gone. He had to go do MMA and boxing. He's failed there too. There's a little bit, at least a little bit more ramifications in the big four sports, though they're not perfect. But in fight sports, like, he should have been a guy that got released or cut, especially since the losses. But it's all about the money. It's all about what you can do, and this is a company that he works for that the president was seen on video smacking his wife and had no punishment for it. This is the kind of things we're dealing with. And they just got into bed in a merger with WWE, avid WWE fan, loved him my entire life, with the guy who runs the company, Vince McMahon, a genius, and he's got a terrible record too, and he was pushed out of the company for a short time because of a scandal in terms of payoffs to side chicks and all kinds of stuff. So, but it's I think it just puts a ugly spotlight on the sport, and it's like, I would love to see it change, but it's not going to change, and he's probably just going to fight. Which brings me to the next question real quickly before we get on to the next point, because we covered it today on Sportsnaut. Looks like Conor's not fighting in 2023, even though that fight was announced months ago. Dude ain't get back in the USADA pool. We need 6 months in the damn pool. You were afraid of Anthony Stradamus like 3 weeks ago, saying, I don't think he's going to fight. And you looked on point. Does he fight at all? Does he ever come back? Or was this all a chance to promote Tough, to promote his new product, and to promote the Netflix special?
I think this was all, McGregor promotion. I mean, I'm always leery of the UFC announcing a fight months before it happens. Like, I'm always, whenever we get teased with something like that, I'm like, I'll believe it when they step on the scale at the weigh-ins. I'll believe it when the cage
especially
door
with
locks.
no date, no event, nothing.
At least show me a poster.
Maybe.
At least show me a poster with a date. And then I'll start maybe kind of believing it. But we've been burnt way too many times, on way too many matchups, to believe that a fight that is on the books but isn't officially on the books is officially on the books. Like, I just can't get fooled by that. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, in terms of McGregor, as far as if he's going to fight, because that was another big piece of this as far as how the promotion can handle this latest scandal. Is it even worth it being in the Conor McGregor business anymore? Because if you're not fighting, you're not out there performing, therefore you're not going to draw in pay-per-view dollars if you're not actually available to fight. Then is this worth the headache? We're coming off of 2022. The UFC made, according to the Bloody Elbow report that John Nash did, with $387 million in profit in a year that McGregor did not fight.
Another record.
Do you need McGregor at this point? Is it worth the PR nightmare? Like, you mentioned Greg Hardy, and Greg Hardy had a purpose for when he was there, right? The ESPN deal was new. He was somebody familiar to ESPN viewers who weren't necessarily familiar with mixed martial arts because of his NFL days. So, okay, they're going to trot him out, and the PR hit might have been worth it in their eyes. But is the PR hit worth it now for someone who is repeatedly being accused of sexual assault, not to mention just random assaults in general? The same guy who, like, threw a dolly into a bus and destroyed a pay-per-view card. I mean, is it worth it to still be in that business? And as far as USADA is concerned, a lot of talk is out there about USADA. He didn't make the USADA cutoff, so he's not going to be eligible to fight. USADA works for the UFC. Like,
yeah.
If the UFC doesn't care about what USADA has to say, which I think McGregor would warrant them not caring if you're looking at it from a pure monetary standpoint, then they're just going to do the same thing they did with Brock Lesnar and just give him an exemption. And if he pops hot later, he pops out later. That's the route that we can go. But that's still dependent on McGregor actually fighting. I don't believe it at this point. I just don't. And if I'm McGregor, why would I want to fight? Like, I've got this wildly popular whiskey brand. You know, he's got a movie coming out soon with Jake Gyllenhaal. You know, he's got all these avenues to money, and he's still someone who can endorse all these products and everything. You're a guy who can make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars every year on top of the millions upon millions that you already have without getting hit in the head. Why?
Yep. Okay. I think that's a perfect way to end that. Let's move on to so Jared Cannonier, big win, impressive performance over Marvin Vettori last week. He's not going to get a title shot because he's lost to Israel. If Alex Pereira would have beat Israel in that last fight, he might have got a title shot, but he's not going to get it. But it seems like Dricus du Plessis, he's probably going to get it if he beat Rob Whittaker. If Rob Whittaker beats him, he's probably not going to get a title shot, just because of this whole thing with du Plessis and the Africa thing. He's South African, Israel. He has the Nigerian connections and all this stuff. So Israel's pretty much just building it up because it just interests him at this point. That's the most guy. And du Plessis will have to jump several spots and over multiple people into that fight, even if he beat Robert Whittaker. Does like the middleweight division in the UFC have a bit of a contender problem? And because of this, let's say du Plessis doesn't win, which is very possible. He's fighting Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is the next greatest middleweight in the world, not named Israel Adesanya. Does he maybe go up to light heavyweight after this? Does he try to take a second run at light heavyweight and a fight, which I think if he fought Jamal Hill, I think that's a good matchup for him.
I agree. I mean, I think that's probably the best thing for Adesanya, and I think for Jamal Hill, that's the fight I'd be trying to campaign for. You know, who else in the light heavyweight division is going to attract the same amount of business that Israel Adesanya would? If I'm Jamal Hill and I've got those pay-per-view points on my contract, I want the guy who's going to give me the most of those pay-per-view points. I want to fight the guy who is smaller and who likes to strike, and I'm bigger than, and I can hit him harder. Like, that's the fight that I want if I'm Jamal Hill. And if you're Israel Adesanya, I mean, this is sort of his creation in the sense that he's beaten everybody that was eligible at the time, but also the UFC's fault. Like, you're going to book DDP and Robert Whittaker right now with this intent. Okay, well, in 2 months after their fight, the winner is going to fight Israel Adesanya probably. That doesn't make any sense. Like, they're going to go in there and beat the tar out of each other. Yeah. And we're going to rely on someone making it out, making out healthy enough, like either one of them, nevertheless the winner, like making it out healthy enough to go and fight Israel Adesanya, to go through another training camp and another weight cut, to then fight and make this date, you know, a couple months later. This is silly. The UFC did this to themselves. I mean, they've got Khamzat Chimaev in the back pocket also, but you're talking about a guy who his last middleweight fight was Gerald Meerschaert, if I'm not mistaken. But then again, hey, rankings don't matter. Like, none of this matters. Yeah. They just can do what they want. No. And so I essentially feel like we're you and I mean, we've done this before in a previous job that we worked together. You know, we are friends outside of this, so we've talked about all these fights and everything. We are nerds for this sort of stuff. So maybe our minds are too clouded in this bubble, but it doesn't matter. Outside of our bubble, it does not matter. The UFC is just going to put whoever they want in there, and the logical things they have already thrown out the window. So the illogical must be what's going to go on next, right? It's got to be Khamzat, or Adesanya is going to go up in weight and fight Jamal Hill. Those are the only things that make any sense to me, because DDP or Whittaker coming out healthy enough to then be able to fight in 2 months just sounds, you might as well just read a comic book, man. That's crazy.
There's no rankings. It doesn't matter. There's no real relevancy. It's just the fight I want to see the most out of Adesanya versus either Whittaker or du Plessis, Jamal Hill or Khamzat Chimaev. What do you want to see? Honestly, I want to see the Khamzat fight. That's the fight I would want to see. Rankings don't matter. Just for the fight to watch, what's the fight you want to see?
Yeah, Khamzat probably. Followed very closely by DDP. Like
Really?
I'm
Why, you just want to see Adesanya and you crush this man?
I would never say that as a credentialed media member. How dare you, Jason? What do you think? I'm some sort of pro-black nationalist?
On your did you do like the what's that, the family tree thing when you found out you got Nigerian ties? Is that what happened? I knew it. But let's moving on. Let's not get too crazy. Okay, so move on to the next topic. I want to talk about this highly pushed, highly advertised, ain't gonna happen. Why are you wasting my time? But also, I get it thing with Francis Ngannou, John Jones. They see each other at the PFL event a week ago. They even advertised going into the event. Oh, John is in and Ngannou. They're gonna be there. Let's see what happens. And then they like 57,000 cameras all catch them perfectly, meet each other. Like, I get why the PFL is doing it, and it's probably not the bad idea. You know, you draw attention to your brand either way, but I just feel there's other ways to do it. And especially because this fight's not going to happen. Like, you guys are not going to work together. UFC's not co-promoting with the MMA promotion. They did it like once with boxing. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, like, I feel like it's almost insulting the fans. Let's have this face off and sweat. Oh, imagine. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, John fighting Tyson Fury at this point is probably more likely than him fighting Francis Ngannou in MMA. I mean, it's just weird to me. What are your thoughts on the whole confrontation and just the push behind it from PFL?
I mean, the PFL's doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Like, they're paying Francis a boatload of money to do this. They've hyped everything up. I mean, they are building this up as much as they possibly can. And one of the hugest parts of this buildup is the idea of, can Francis Ngannou beat John Jones or vice versa? Like, that's the thing. That's the question that's centered at all of this. So why not exploit the absolute hell out of that when you have the opportunity, with John Jones wearing a shirt with a PFL logo in your building, in your venue, and Francis Ngannou happens to be there too in his finest of African garb? Why not? Why not? Like, they would be foolish not to. And as far as being insulting to the fans, I think combat sports fans, us included, I mean, we are a group of marks and suckers. Like, everyone's going to take the bait for this. Like, everyone. So, you know, why not? Absolutely, why not? And at this point, I think for the PFL, I think it's also important to keep the pressure up. If they really want to make this matchup happen, just keep applying that pressure. Keep drawing attention to it, because it's very clear that the only entity that is not down for this is the UFC. John Jones would sign that bout agreement in a heartbeat if it was legally possible. Francis Ngannou would sign that bout agreement in a heartbeat if it's legally possible. PFL would do it in a flash. ESPN, the shared broadcast partner, is absolutely ready to sign whatever they need to sign to make this happen. The only entity that is a question mark in it all is the UFC. They are the one and only part of this equation that's saying no. So if you are the PFL, if you are Francis Ngannou, even if you are John Jones, if you're ESPN behind the scenes, apply the pressure, and maybe, just maybe, you get what you want. Worst case scenario, you get some photo ops, you get a few extra views. Maybe it translates to buy somewhere down the line for Ngannou making his PFL debut next year.
And the one thing they do have in terms of promotional leverage is that they have the case to say, okay, you got the heavyweight champion. Well, we got the baddest man too. Like, he didn't lose. He was your champion. He didn't lose. You know, it's a good leverage that they have. As long as Francis doesn't lose in the PFL, because if he loses in the PFL, it's all gone. Like, if he lost to Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder in boxing, no big deal. It's in boxing. He took a risk. He's an underdog. But if he loses in the PFL, man, all that charm is going away. But as long as they have it, you're right. You swayed me. Like, they should maximize the heck out of it while they have it. But speaking of PFL, one of the more fascinating stories this last week, and I don't think it's talked about enough because it's really a big deal, and there was a new layer added onto it today, was Bellator president Scott Coker admitting last week, because there's been rumblings for a while that Bellator might be up for sale, maybe partnership, but it seems like it's more likely a sale, that PFL is one of the possible contenders to purchase them, like, and a merger. Today, also, advertisement. Go to sportsnaut.com. Today was revealed that the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and his son, Shad Khan, and his son Tony Khan, Tony Khan is the owner of AEW, the wrestling promotion, they're also supposedly kicking the tires a little bit on buying Bellator too, which will be fascinating because Endeavor owns UFC, WWE, the ones in wrestling MMA, and the Khans could own Bellator and AEW, the twos in wrestling and MMA, which would be fascinating in that way. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm sure there's purists that would like to see Bellator last and stuff like that, but I'm very much in favor of an alternative. And if there's a merger and if Bellator is eaten up and it becomes PFL Super and 2.0 with the Bellator added roster, I'm kind of for it. I mean, I feel for the people that could lose jobs and it's a tough business, but in that level, I don't want to see it. But on a fan perspective, I'd like to see a merger. I'd like to see a strong second promotion that's legitimate. PFL is far better at promoting their brand than Bellator is. That's Bellator's one weakness. Bellator has a better roster than the PFL. It's a perfect marriage to me in a lot of ways, especially if PFL's running it. They're good at getting investments. Ara Hawaiian reported today they're the reason why they're kind of back in the bidding is they've got a new round of investments that they can throw at a purchase. So I'm for it. I mean, one championship wants to play the game of we're as big as the UFC. We don't want to work with anybody. Cool. Bellator and PFL merge. Clear number 2. Fun promotion. What are you thinking?
I definitely think there are a lot of good things that can come out of this. But first thing I want to see MVP in the smart cage. I want to see MVP throw a strike and then see all these unnecessary stats just flash across the screen. That's what the people really want. Okay, so let's make that happen, guys. Ray, Cepho, make it happen. Make it happen. I want to see MVP throw a punch and dance, and I want to see his hip speed calculated on the screen. But seriously,
because I can only imagine you're like, oh, his hit speed is 37.2 megahertz. That's what mine must be.
Yeah, and I'll be in front of the TV just getting my jiggle on, trying to see if I can beat MVP speed and the dancing. You know what, man? This is something that no matter what way it plays out can be very beneficial for the sport of mixed martial arts altogether. And I think it's very important that everyone in this equation know their role. Because if this is something that's intended, like if you're going to merge the PFL and Bellator and they're going to take on the UFC, I'm sorry, you're not. You're just not. Even the strength of both of those promotions combined does not overtake the UFC's market share or the sheer monopoly they have on talent and whatnot. But you can make yourself a very strong competitor to make it. As the UFC is continuing to pump out these sort of just rank and file cards that don't really have a lot of consequence and are essentially just, it's just like a content farm at this point, you know, give us something alternate to the content farm. Like that's sort of what we're craving. Like when One Championship had their debut in the US a couple months back, I think it was, like it felt like a huge thing. It felt so different. Yeah. And granted, it was the same One Championship type product that we have seen, for a while, but it felt different because it was in the States and it had that
they overcame a hurdle.
Yeah. It felt special. You know, we don't have enough of those special moments as this content farm just keeps on just rolling out new events and we don't have time to reflect on the last one and so on and so forth. And it just keeps going in this cycle. Bellator and PFL together can throw a monkey wrench in those plans and give us something to be excited about sometimes. And I don't know what that format looks like because even though Bellator isn't known to have this strict tournament format, they have, mostly one-off fights. I mean, they've been doing a lot of work in the Grand Prix last couple of years. I mean, and that's close enough to what PFL's doing in their tournament system. And PFL is dabbling more into their so-called super fights and having more one-off fights. And that's sort of what Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul are supposed to be a part of, and Clarissa Shields, this wave of sort of one-off fights. There's got to be some way we can meet in the middle here if these two companies join forces. And even if it does result in a lot of fighters getting sent their walking papers, unfortunately, I mean, I think executives, the people that work in the promotions, like that's going to be a slashing of jobs regardless. Hopefully those people land on their feet as well. But as far as like the extra wealth of fighters that will be available on the market, man, because if some of them get scooped up by the UFC, well, you might have at least a wee bit of an injection of talent there, instead of more of the mundane. You got extra bodies that could go to Ryzen. You got extra bodies that can go to One. You've got people that might stick around on the regional scene more and develop more of a name for themselves and build up a better hype before they jump into the big league. So there's a trickle down effect. KSW even, like there's so many different promotions that can benefit, including the UFC. So I think this is a win for everyone in mixed martial arts, aside from those unfortunate enough to have to part ways with their jobs, if these companies merge in some way.
And I like the PFL league concept. I think it's a concept that can transition for a lot of casual fans and get it. And the lacking of the roster has always been a problem. If they can all of a sudden have a season that has Pitbull, AJ McKee, Nemkov, man, all of a sudden that season gets really good, really fascinating, really interesting, almost must watch if you're a fan. It's always good to have alternative, but it's good to have good alternatives instead of many okay alternatives. And I think the MMA landscape is so fractured with and no disrespect, I like KSW, I like One Championship, I like Bellator, PFL, but it's just too many. Like one person can watch so much, and you're gonna watch UFC, so it hurts them. If there's less to watch, that means maybe more people may watch that and that merge company, and that's good for them. But since you mentioned just our last topic, and we'll get out of here, is UFC making the constant content. Let's just talk about quickly UFC Jacksonville, and we're not going to do like other podcasts. We're going to run down the top fights. We're going to make a pick. You can go to other podcasts for that. We're here for topic. We're here for conversation. We're here for interviews. So I just wanted to mainly brush up against the main event. That's the most interesting fight. There's some solid fights at UFC Jacksonville or UFC ABC, whatever number that is called. But Emmett versus Topuria, that's a good fight. That's a real fun fight. Topuria is really like that hidden gem at featherweight that really hasn't really connected with the bigger audience, but that dude is nasty. That dude's the fastest rising star, one of the best fighters in the division. And Emmett's a great test. He just fought for the interim title, was red hot in going into that fight with Yair until he lost. Getting a little long in the tooth, but the guy can wrestle a little bit, big power in his hands, which is uncanny for the division, stuff like that. It's a big fight for Topuria. If Topuria is the guy that we think he can be, and he can maybe be that top-level talent, this is a fight he has to win. Question is, can he beat Josh Emmett?
Absolutely, he can. I'm not definitively saying like, oh, this is my pick, this is a lock, and take your paycheck and run to the betting booth for Topuria, but he certainly has more than one way to win this fight. He's a guy who while we kind of know him for just knocking people out, just deading fools out there in the cage with his strikes, he's a very, very slick submission artist. This guy who before he got to the UFC, he was ripping limbs off like it was nothing. So is Emmett going to feel comfortable to get on the ground with him and do but so much? You're going to at least think about it if you're Josh Emmett, right? Or any grappler is going to think about it. Like you saw what he did to Bryce Mitchell. Like he buzzed through Bryce Mitchell.
That was the best one. That was the best example of how good he is.
Yeah, I mean that's sensational the way he did. And we don't think of Bryce Mitchell as a pure wrestler, but Bryce Mitchell is one of the last guys in the featherweight division that you want to be on the floor with, right? But Topuria can definitely stand with you, and I think from a technical standpoint, I think he's a better striker than Emmett. He doesn't have the same power, but he's a lot slicker in my opinion, and he has a lot more variety in his weapons. This is, if he avoids that big shot, I think he does what he wants to do against Emmett, and I see this as being his real coming out party.
And where does he? Let's say he gets this win, a top win, stuff like that. It's a really kind of a landmark win. It really sets him up that this is a legit guy. Where does he go from here? Because you got Yair and Volkanovski coming up right after it. You got Max gonna fight Korean Zombie, which is it's like if Max wins that fight, he's supposed to. Korean Zombie is like at the back of the top 10. Like I don't feel that's gonna really get Max very far unless Yair wins. Then you have a rematch that makes sense. Brian Ortega's MIA again. Arnold Allen lost. Could this win catapult Topuria into possibly a fight with Volkanovski maybe end of this year, early next year?
I think so. It's possible. I think what we're seeing though right now is sort of like the ripple effects of Volkanovski going up in weight to fight Makhachev.
Yeah.
Earlier this year. Like that's so now it's like the rest of the division, it has to catch up. The contendership has to catch up to the champion being gone for that brief moment and another champion being installed. So now things are a little bit disarray underneath the interim and the well, I guess I can't say undisputed belt now, but you know what I mean, the two belts. So everything under that is in a bit of disarray, and this is the perfect sort of chaos for Topuria to rise. If he defeats number 5 ranked Josh Emmett, and Holloway, like say Volkanovski comes out against Rodriguez, he comes out the victor in that. Do we need to see Holloway again if he beats Korean Zombie? Absolutely not. Does Korean Zombie, do we want to see that again against Volkanovski? Absolutely not. Like I said, Brian Ortega, MIA, do we want to see that again? Absolutely not. Topuria this is his moment. If he gets past Josh Emmett, it's going to be very difficult to deny him. At the very least, if Volkanovski decides he beats Rodriguez, or if Rodriguez beats Volkanovski, and we have another sort of one-off trip to 155, well, Topuria at least gets an interim shot against the winner of Korean Zombie and Max Holloway or something. That sounds about right. So Topuria, either way, I think he comes out with the win. He gets a shot at a belt.
All right. So let's get out of here right before an hour. So this is the first edition of the Scrap Report. Sportsnaut Scrap Report with me, Jason Burgos. He's Anthony Walker. Of course, go check out our work on sportsnaut.com. Anthony's work on Ringside Intel and beyond. Until next time, everybody, please come back and bye-bye.